So the next part of the canvas we have here is the customer journey portion. Now I've taken this template off of a plugin that I showed you earlier, which is the product planner plugin. And essentially, what we're going to do here is we're going to map a user journey. And you may be asking why or how. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use all of the resources that we had from before. So project goals, we have target users. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our main target user. So what I like to do is I'll just take our last minute shopper. Take that. We have a last minute shopper. So just to explain this section a little bit more in detail. Now to start this section, the most important end user is identified and their primary goal. So, you know, like I said before, when people come together, they're going to mark which goals are the primary goals. There could be more than one goal. In this sense, what I want is, maybe this is our primary goal, a more personal shopping experience. So we have our primary goal. We have our key primary user. Now, what we want to do is, from the perspective of the most critical end user's primary goal, we're going to start the user journey mapping session and continue with the next most important goal from any end user group. So you can give us more than once. You can give this only once. Typically, we only have time to do this a couple of times before we have to actually move on, because it is pretty time intensive when you have around the room working on something like this. But this presents a good basis of what the user journey could look like. Now, this is usually done in a collaborative session where the client, project team, and, you know, any subject matter experts are participating in the session. You know, given the target user and the goal, the groups list all the tasks that the user will have to do to make this goal a reality. Now, the goals are listed one task per post, and upon completion, the group puts them in chronological order on a whiteboard. So, let's dive deep into what a user journey is. So, on the most basic level, a user journey is from beginning to end the steps a user needs to take to complete the goal. Now, there are different ways we can actually come to create a user journey, and the most basic way I found is literally get a whiteboard, get your stickies, and just start throwing them up there. So I'm actually going to get some blue stickies here. Perfect. So we're going to grab our stickies and we're going to start from the beginning. Before we begin, we're all set up here. Now, like I said, that's the easiest way to actually create a customer journey. Now we can come back and we can actually write little things in here. We can actually fill this out. We can think about, is the customer experience positive or negative? Are there needs or certain interactions? Are there improvement opportunities? These are ways that we can really note areas within that process where we can make that experience much more delightful for users. So this is like a more traditional customer journey map, but I like to rock with something like this, where we're literally just listing tasks to get a good understanding of all the different types of features we may need, all the different types of tasks that really need to happen for this user to actually complete this goal. Now, usually unclear or controversial tasks are going to be reassessed, and if the consensus isn't reached after a short discussion, we will assign certain like features, kind of like a backlog or an area where we need to kind of reassess them later. So let's get started. Now let's think about all the different tasks that we need to complete this goal, a more personal shopping experience. The user needs to register for app. I mean, it can even go beyond the application. It could be like, how does the user even know about the application? Let's do this one. User enters their key information. So that's another one. User is directed to main home screen. You can see all the products that pertain to them. user finds a product that they like, user makes purchase. So as you notice, this is very vague, and I mean, there's only 6 steps, and the reason is I'm kind of oversimplifying things. There are probably steps in between. Like I mentioned, what happens before user registers for the app? Like, how do we market to people? Receives email for promo code. Like, how do we hook people in? Enters the key information. Like, this is where we may start breaking it down a little bit and think of what is the different types of key information that we really need to find here. So that could be something like, we maybe need to know their personal details. I don't know if that's relevant, but that's something we can talk about as a group. That's why you really need all these people in the same room. Another example could be like interests, products they like. Maybe we use products they like as a way to understand a bit more about the user. What else is there? A user is directed to the main home screen. Okay, so that's fine. And so maybe they can see cards that pertain to them. That's pretty vague. So an example could be something like interest picker. I remember we designed that, an interest picker. Maybe there are deals on products they like. I mean, you can start seeing how we start to build this out a bit more and think about this much more deeply. We really want to figure out how we can get them from registering to that personal experience, and ultimately that personal experience should lead to some sort of conversion, like making a purchase, or maybe, save a product. So like, or maybe adding a product to a wish list if they are waiting for a sale or something like that. So we start to really define a bunch of features just by creating the user journey. And that's why I love using the user journey as a way to do that. Now, the next step is to find those similar alternative and like those details about a task that are listed in the same column, as they all represent like a same task or a step. So as you can tell, look, I've broken this down. They all kind of resemble something here that is very similar. This is like seeing products that are relevant to them. So deals on products they like, interest pickers, etc. Or if we think about this a little more deeply, we can name this column to like onboarding. Like that is the actual name of the activity. So we can do that as well if we want to break this down further, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use this. So what we've done here, we added a clear task at the top. One larger task like this will basically have multiple little activities, and then from there, even smaller activities that can arise. Typical user journey, like I said, is like linear. It's from left to right of a user trying to complete a goal, but this is kind of a different take on that. This is more like a story map, and I'm going to get into story mapping soon, but generally what we're doing here is we're creating a journey, but we're also thinking about these key type of details that it takes to get there. If we think about if we need to get ready for like university or something like that in the morning, it's not just I need to get ready for university. I mean, I need to wake up. I need to turn off my alarm. I need to take a shower. I need to eat breakfast. And even within those smaller tasks, there are different things that we can break out from there. An example being like, I need to pour my cereal. I need to get a spoon. I need to get a bowl. So there are different types of like little requirements that we often forget if we just gloss over it and just think about the larger tasks at hand. Now, the end result probably will look something like this. It couldn't look like this without those larger tasks at the top. I like to start kind of putting them up there, starting to think about this in a larger way. Generally, I kind of do this once because, as you can see, just from taking this primary goal from this primary user, we start to think about all these different requirements that are coming through with our application here. So if I think about registering for an app, I need to think about email, and the user needs to enter their email. Maybe it's not email, maybe it's just a phone number, I don't know. we need their name. When I think about the home screen, I think about navigation. I think about like navigation options. I mean, I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff out there, but you can start seeing how we can break this down into different types of journeys or different things that we haven't thought about. Doing multiple journeys could really help break this out even further.